Let me ask you something straight. How many times have you said, "I'll do it tomorrow"? How many dreams have died buried beneath procrastination? How many goals have faded because of one excuse? "I'm not ready yet." Let me give it to you. Success is not about talent. It's not about luck. It's about one habit. A habit so powerful, so rare, that the moment you install it, your results will explode. That's it. That's the habit. Do it now. Not later, not perfect, not when it's convenient, but now. Every winner you admire has this. They don't wait. They don't hesitate. They act immediately. You think Elon Musk waited until everything was perfect to launch rockets into space? You think Michael Jordan waited until he was in the mood to train? You think George Bernardshaw waited for permission to shake the world with his words? No. Perfection is a dream killer. It's the silent enemy of success. The invisible wall between where you are and where you want to be. Most people never reach their potential, not because they lack skill or opportunity, but because they're waiting for everything to be just right. They're stuck in a prison of planning, overthinking, and second-guessing, all in the name of perfection. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. And the people who achieve extraordinary results are not the ones who wait for perfection. They are the ones who act despite imperfection. Think about it. Every great idea, every revolutionary product, every life-changing decision started with someone taking imperfect action. The phone in your hand, it was launched with bugs. The first car, it was noisy, slow, and unreliable. The first airplane, it barely flew. But those imperfect beginnings sparked industries, changed the world, and created momentum that still impacts us today. Why? Because someone had the courage to act before it was perfect. The problem with waiting for perfection is that it creates paralysis. You become so obsessed with getting every detail right that you end up doing nothing at all. You spend days, weeks, even years planning, researching, tweaking, but never launching. And while you're waiting, someone else is out there executing, learning from their mistakes, and getting better every single day. They're not smarter than you. They're not luckier. They just understand one fundamental truth. Action beats perfection. Every time. When you choose to act, even when things aren't ready, you put yourself in motion. And motion is power. The universe doesn't reward the best ideas sitting in notebooks. It rewards the ones that are brought to life. Taking action, even if it's clumsy and uncertain, creates feedback. It teaches you what works and what doesn't. It gives you experience, which is something you can't gain from theory alone. And more importantly, it creates momentum. One step leads to another. One call leads to a connection. One video leads to a following. One attempt leads to mastery. Let's be honest. Perfection is often just fear in disguise. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of not being good enough. So we hide behind the excuse of just a little more time. We tell ourselves we'll start once the timing is right, once we have better equipment, more money, more knowledge. But that perfect moment, it never comes. It's always almost. And in the meantime, life passes by. Opportunities fade and dreams quietly die. The people who succeed aren't fearless. They just don't let fear stop them. They know they're going to make mistakes, and they embrace it. They understand that perfection is a moving target, and if you aim for it, you'll never pull the trigger. So instead, they aim for progress. They aim for movement. They aim for growth. And because they're moving, learning, and improving, while everyone else is stuck preparing, they gain an advantage that compounds over time. Execution, not perfection, is what separates winners from wishers. You can have the most brilliant plan, but if you don't act on it, it's worthless. You can have the perfect strategy, but if you don't implement it, it's dead. You can dream all day, visualize all you want, but until you move, nothing changes. Action turns dreams into reality. Execution turns vision into victory. It doesn't matter if you're building a business, trying to get fit, writing a book, launching a YouTube channel, or changing careers. The principle is the same. Start now. Start messy. Start without all the answers. Because the longer you wait, the more doubt creeps in, and the more you hesitate, the harder it gets. But when you act immediately, even on a small scale, you begin to build something real. You begin to shift your identity from someone who thinks to someone who does. And that shift, that change in self-image, is the foundation of massive results. There's a saying in the startup world, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you launch too late. That applies to everything in life. Your first version won't be perfect. Your first step might be shaky, but none of that matters. What matters is that you move, because movement creates clarity. Action creates confidence, and results come to those who show up, not those who sit on the sidelines, waiting for everything to be flawless. Stop letting perfection be the reason you delay your destiny. You don't need to know the whole staircase. Just take the first step. You don't need the perfect plan. You need to act on the plan you've got. You don't need everyone's approval. You need your own permission to begin. Perfection is the lie that says, don't start until it's safe. But success belongs to the bold, to those who start before they're ready, to those who move even when they're scared, to those who understand that done is better than perfect, because done is what changes lives. So if you want to 10x your results in your business, in your life, in your goals, stop aiming for perfection. Start aiming for execution. Take action today, not tomorrow. Start with what you have, not what you wish you had. And remember, you don't need perfect steps. You just need forward steps. That's how results multiply. That's how lives transform. And that's how your greatness is unlocked, not through waiting, but through doing. Confidence is often misunderstood. People think it's something you're born with, that it's a personality trait or a gift given only to the lucky few. But here's the truth that most people miss. Confidence is not something you have. It's something you build. And the fastest, most powerful way to build it is not by thinking, wishing, or hoping. It's by taking action. Every time you act, especially when you're afraid, uncertain, or unprepared, you deposit something into your confidence account. It may not feel like it at the time. In fact, your first steps might feel awkward. You might feel shaky, unsure, even foolish. But those steps are exactly what builds strength. Because confidence isn't created in comfort. It's forged. Let's face it, overthinking is a confidence killer. When you sit and analyze every possible outcome, when you play worst-case scenarios in your head, when you wait and wait and wait, you don't build clarity, you build doubt. Your mind starts to attack you with questions like, what if I fail? What will people think? Am I good enough? That mental loop creates paralysis. And when you do nothing, your confidence begins to erode. Why? Because deep down, you know you're betraying your potential. You know you're capable of more. And that knowing eats away at you. But the moment you take action, something changes. You interrupt the cycle. You break the grip of fear. You create evidence, proof that you are capable. Even if you mess up, even if it doesn't go perfectly, the fact that you did something becomes the building block for belief, because confidence is not built in theory. It's built in the field, on the court, in the trenches, through trial, error, and persistence. Think about any time in your life when you felt most confident. It probably wasn't when you were sitting still doing nothing. It was when you were moving, when you were making progress, when you were stepping outside your comfort zone and proving to yourself that you could handle it. Maybe it was the first time you hit a goal you didn't think was possible, or the first time you spoke up in front of people, finished a workout, launched a project, or stood up for yourself. Those moments, those actions, were fuel for your confidence. It works the other way too. When you repeatedly fail to take action, your confidence begins to shrink. You start to trust yourself less. You start to see yourself as someone who doesn't follow through, and that perception becomes reality. But the good news is, the reverse is just as powerful. When you start to act quickly and consistently, even in small ways, your self-trust begins to grow. You start to see yourself as someone who takes initiative, someone who gets things done, someone who doesn't let fear make their decisions. And once you start believing that about yourself, the game changes. People often think confidence comes first, that you need to feel confident before you act. But it's the opposite. You act first, and confidence follows. You push the button, you send the message, you apply for the opportunity, you step into the room. And by doing that, you signal to your mind, I'm not afraid of growth. I'm not afraid to try. That's how the belief system starts to rewire itself. Here's the most powerful part. Confidence gained through action is unshakable. It's not based on compliments or approval from others. It's not fragile or temporary. It's earned. It's real. When you put in the work, when you face your fears, when you kept your promises to yourself, you walk differently. You speak with more certainty. You carry yourself with quiet power, and people notice. Let's use a simple example. Imagine someone wants to become a great speaker. They watch videos, they read books, they study techniques, but they never actually speak. Compare that to someone who steps on stage, nervous, unsure, even terrified, but they speak anyway. Who do you think will grow faster? Who do you think will develop real confidence? It's obvious. The person who acts. Because while one is preparing endlessly, the other is building battle-tested belief. This applies to every area of life. Business, fitness, relationships, creativity, discipline. The person who acts learns faster, grows faster, and builds more confidence with every step. And here's the secret, that confidence becomes a magnet. It draws in opportunities. People want to work with confident people. They want to follow confident leaders. They want to be around someone who radiates certainty. And certainty is born from execution. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to be perfect. You don't even need to feel ready. What you need is a willingness to act, especially when it's uncomfortable. Because that's where confidence is hiding. It's on the other side of the risk you're avoiding. It's buried in the tasks you keep putting off. It's waiting for you in the middle of the thing you fear most. So, if you want to 10x your results, Stop chasing the feeling of confidence and start creating it. With action, with boldness, with speed. Confidence isn't a gift. It's a reward. And it belongs to those who move. The next time you feel doubt creeping in, remember this. You don't need to feel brave to be brave. You don't need to feel confident to take action. But if you take action, especially when you don't feel ready, you will earn a level of confidence that no one can take from you. That is the foundation of greatness. That is how empires are built. One bold step at a time. Motivation is powerful, but it's unreliable. It's like a match. It burns bright, but it burns out quickly. One moment you feel inspired, fired up, ready to conquer the world. Then life happens. You get tired. You get distracted. You lose the spark. And suddenly, the thing you are so excited about becomes another item on a list of things you meant to do. That's why motivation alone is never enough. It's fleeting. It comes and goes, but there is something stronger, something that keeps you going long after motivation fades. And that is momentum. Momentum is the quiet force behind every great achievement. It's the energy that builds when you start taking consistent action. It doesn't depend on emotion. It doesn't care if you feel like it. It's driven by motion, by movement, and once it starts to build, it becomes almost unstoppable. The secret is this. If you want to create big results in your life, don't chase motivation. Create momentum. Here's what most people do. They wait to feel ready. They wait for inspiration. They wait for clarity. But the truth is, clarity comes from doing, not from waiting. The moment you start moving, even if it's small, even if it's messy, something shifts inside you. You begin to generate energy. You start to feel alive. Action creates motion, and motion creates momentum. Think about a snowball. At the top of the hill, it's small. It's barely moving. But once it starts rolling, it gathers snow, it picks up speed, and eventually it becomes a force of nature. That's what happens when you take action. At first it's hard. You might not see much progress. But the more you move, the more power you build, and soon the same things that once felt difficult become automatic. People underestimate how powerful momentum is because it starts off quietly. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It shows up in the form of daily habits, in routines, in showing up when you don't feel like it. It's waking up early to work on your goals. It's going to the gym even when you're tired. It's making that call, writing that page, taking that step over and over. At first, there's resistance, but if you keep going, the resistance weakens and the movement becomes natural. That's when the magic happens. Momentum makes the hard things easier. It reduces friction. It turns discipline into desire. When you're in motion, you don't have to constantly convince yourself to act because the habit has taken over. You're no longer pushing a boulder uphill. You're riding the wave you've created through your consistency. Now, contrast that with motivation. Motivation is based on how you feel. And let's be honest, your feelings are unreliable. One day you're pumped, the next day you're exhausted. One week you're on fire, the next week you're full of doubt. If you only act when you're motivated, your progress will be inconsistent, unpredictable, and often non-existent. You'll keep starting over, keep breaking promises to yourself, and wonder why nothing ever changes. Momentum doesn't rely on your mood. It relies on your movement. That's what makes it superior. Once you build it, it carries you. You can ride that energy into new levels of focus, discipline, and achievement. That's why some people seem to accomplish so much so quickly. They're not waiting to feel inspired. They're already in motion. They've learned how to generate momentum, and they protect it at all costs. Another powerful thing about momentum is that it builds identity. Every time you follow through, every time you stay consistent, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who takes action, someone who follows through, someone who finishes what they start. That identity shift is everything, because once you see yourself that way, you naturally begin to act in alignment with that belief. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop giving in to distractions. You start to trust yourself, and that trust becomes the foundation of everything else. Here's what happens when you commit to building momentum. You stop waiting. You stop needing permission. You stop relying on outside motivation. You become your own source of power. You take the first step, then the second, then the third, and pretty soon people start asking you how you stay so disciplined, how you stay so consistent. The answer is simple. You built momentum. You made movement a habit. And now the thing that once felt hard is just part of who you are. So how do you build momentum? You act, even when you don't feel like it. You set a small, clear goal and move toward it. Not tomorrow, not later, now. Because the truth is, the hardest part is starting. But once you start, once you move, everything gets easier. And the more you do it, the stronger the momentum becomes. Momentum is the great multiplier. It turns effort into efficiency. It turns habits into identity. It turns average into excellence. If you've ever wondered how some people seem to do more, achieve more, and grow faster, it's not because they have more talent or time. It's because they have momentum. And the best part? You can build it at any time, right now. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to act, because once you move, the energy shifts. The resistance weakens, and the force that carries champions, that invisible current of progress and power, begins to work in your favor. Don't wait for motivation to strike. Strike first, take action, build momentum, and watch your results multiply, not Sunday, but instantly. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. It's the silent force behind every successful person, the invisible engine that keeps them moving forward when the excitement wears off and the obstacles begin to stack up. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't get applause. It's not flashy like talent, not loud like motivation, and not easy like emotion. But it works. It always works. Because when everything else fails, when the mood is gone, when inspiration fades, when nobody's watching, discipline is what keeps you going. Most people fail not because they lack goals, but because they lack the discipline to stay consistent. They start strong, but they can't sustain. They have ambition, but not structure. They talk about what they want, but don't build the habits to support it. They rely on motivation, hoping it will carry them across the finish line. But motivation is temporary, discipline is permanent. And once you build it, it becomes your superpower, the one habit that can 10x your results and transform every part of your life. Here's the truth. Discipline is freedom. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. Most people think discipline is about restriction, about saying no, about missing out. But real discipline liberates you. It gives you the ability to choose long-term success over short-term pleasure. It lets you control your actions instead of being a slave to your impulses. It creates space for growth, for health, for wealth, for peace. Because when you're disciplined, your choices align with your values. You no longer live at the mercy of temptation, procrastination, or chaos. Discipline is also a form of self-respect. Every time you do what you said you'd do, especially when it's hard, you send a message to yourself. I am reliable. I keep my word. I'm in control. That builds trust with yourself, and self-trust is one of the most powerful forms of confidence you can have. When you trust yourself, you don't need outside validation. You become your own source of motivation, and that makes you unstoppable. But here is where most people get it wrong. They wait to feel disciplined. They wait to be in the mood to act. But discipline doesn't come from emotion. It comes from decision. It's a commitment you make, not just once, but every single day, and sometimes every single hour. It's not about feeling like doing the work. It's about doing it, regardless of how you feel. There will be days when you don't want to show up. When the bed is warm, the excuses are loud, and the path feels heavy. Discipline says, I go anyway, not because it's easy, not because it's fun, but because it matters. Because growth requires sacrifice. Because excellence demands consistency. Because you promised yourself that you would, and you intend to keep that promise. Discipline is built through repetition, through structure, through systems. It's not a one-time effort. It's a lifestyle. It's going to the gym when your body aches. It's writing next page when you're not inspired. It's turning off distractions and getting focused. It's making the tough decision that aligns with your values, not your comfort. And the more you practice discipline, the stronger it becomes. Like a muscle, it grows with use. One of the greatest benefits of discipline is that it simplifies your life. When you're disciplined, you don't waste time debating with yourself. You don't have to decide every day whether or not to do the work, because the decision was already made. You follow your system. You trust your process. That clarity removes the mental fatigue that destroys so many people's progress. You no longer live in confusion. You live in execution. Discipline also breeds momentum. When you consistently take action, you create results, and results fuel motivation. It's a cycle, but it starts with discipline, not inspiration, not passion, but action. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be consistent. One small act of discipline every day compounds into massive transformation over time. Want to change your life? Master your mornings. Win the first hour of your day, and you win the rest. Wake up early, move your body, feed your mind, set your intentions. That one disciplined decision to own your morning will cascade into everything else. It sets the tone. It establishes control. It reminds you that you are in charge of your time, your energy, your focus. Discipline also creates resilience. When life hits you, and it will, discipline is what keeps you standing. It's what helps you show up when you're tired, push through when you're doubting, and stay consistent when the results aren't showing yet. It gives you grit, and grit is what carries you across the finish line when others quit halfway. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the most talented, the smartest, or the fastest. But if you're disciplined, you will win, because the world doesn't reward wishers. It rewards finishers. People who do what needs to be done day in and day out. whether they feel like it or not. So if you want to 10x your results in your career, your health, your relationships, your dreams, stop waiting for the right time. Stop chasing motivation. Stop hoping it'll get easier. Build discipline. Make it your daily habit. Make it your standard. Let it become your identity. Because once discipline becomes who you are, there is nothing you cannot achieve. The people you spend the most time with shape your mindset, your habits, your beliefs, and ultimately your destiny. Whether you realize it or not, your inner circle is either pulling you forward or holding you back. It's not just a cliché. It's a reality backed by experience, observation, and science. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you surround yourself with people who are focused, disciplined, growth-minded, and hungry for success, you will rise. But if your circle is filled with complainers, excuse makers, procrastinators, and people who settle for less, you will inevitably fall into the same patterns. As social creatures, we are wired to adapt, to blend in, to conform to the energy around us. You may have strong willpower, but no one is immune to influence. The standards of your circle become the standards you either challenge or accept. And over time, you will absorb their mindset, their attitude, their pace, their ambition, and their belief system. If you're constantly around people who make excuses, it's only a matter of time before you begin to lower your own standard. If you hear people say, it's too hard, it's not worth it, or why bother? Long enough, your own fire starts to dim. But if your environment is filled with people who say, let's go, let's push, what's the next move? Then your energy changes, your ambition sharpens, your hustle intensifies. This is why upgrading your circle is not just helpful, it's necessary. If you're serious about leveling up your life, you cannot afford to stay connected to people who are okay with mediocrity. Loyalty has limits when it starts costing you your potential. That doesn't mean you cut people off harshly or think you're better than others. It means you honor your future more than your comfort zone. You start to recognize which relationships feed your purpose and which ones drain it. Think about the conversations you're having daily. Are they elevating your thinking or keeping you stuck in small talk? Are the people around you encouraging you to grow, to challenge yourself, to dream bigger? Or are they reminding you why you should stay safe, quiet, and average? The answers to those questions will tell you a lot about the direction your life is headed. Winners surround themselves with winners. That doesn't mean everyone is rich or famous. It means they are aligned, they're committed. They have vision, discipline, hunger. And when you're around that kind of energy, it forces you to rise. You don't want to be the one slacking off. You don't want to be the one without goals. So you start improving, not because you were told to, but because the standard demands it. That's the power of proximity. You start to stretch yourself. You start to believe more is possible. You stop playing small. The truth is, most people stay stuck because they keep surrounding themselves with people who validate their limitations. They stay in groups where no one expects more of them. It feels comfortable. It feels easy. But growth never happens in comfort. Growth requires challenge. It requires pressure. It requires being around people who inspire you, not by preaching, but by how they live. If you want to change your life, start by changing your circle. Find people who are doing more, thinking bigger, living bolder. Join mastermind groups. Read books written by leaders. Listen to podcasts by people who've walked the path you want to walk. Engage with mentors who tell you the truth, not just what you want to hear. The more you expose yourself to high-level thinking, the more your own perspective will expand. And don't just look for people who cheer for you. Look for people who challenge you, who call you out when you slack, who hold you accountable to your goals. True friends don't let you stay average. They won't let you quit on yourself. They push you, not out of judgment, but out of belief in what you're capable of. Also be honest with yourself. What kind of energy are you bringing to your circle? Are you lifting others up or dragging them down? Are you challenging your friends to grow or enabling their excuses? Are you showing up with discipline or waiting to be carried? If you want high-level people in your life, you have to become one yourself. Like attracts like. If you want to sit at the table with winners, you have to bring the mindset, the effort, and the integrity that matches that level. This is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. You don't have to abandon everyone from your past, but you do need to be selective about who gets the most access to your time and energy. Your future is too valuable to let it be shaped by people who don't believe in it. If someone isn't growing, they can't help you grow. If someone isn't evolving, they'll resist your evolution. Don't let their comfort kill your cause. Your circle matters more than you think. It can be your fuel or your failure. It can lift you or limit you. And you get to choose. Choose wisely. Surround yourself with people who remind you of your greatness, who force you to level up, who see the fire in you and fan the flames. Because when your circle is right, you don't just grow, you soar. You think bigger, act faster, dream bolder, and achieve more. You start to 10x your results, not just because you change your habits, but because you change your environment. And once your environment is aligned with your destiny, nothing can stop your momentum. There's a powerful truth that most people ignore. Your environment is either pushing you forward or pulling you back. The space you live in, the energy you allow around you, the routines you follow, and even the content you consume, all of it is shaping your results. If you want to 10x your outcomes instantly, you need to become intentional about your environment. Because success is not just about willpower or talent, it's about positioning. It's about placing yourself in conditions where progress becomes natural, not forced. Look at any top performer in business, in sports, in art, and you'll see one thing in common. They don't rely on willpower alone. They build environments that support their goals. They design their surroundings in a way that makes success easier and failure harder. That's not by accident. It's by design. Because they understand that even the most disciplined person can be worn down by a toxic, distracting, or disorganized environment. But even someone with average discipline can thrive in the right setting. Most people live in environments that contradict their goals. They say they want to focus, but their phones are full of distractions. They say they want to be healthy, but their fridge is filled with junk. They say they want peace, but they live in chaos. That gap between desire and environment is where dreams die. You can have the strongest intentions, but if your surroundings are misaligned, your progress will always feel like an uphill battle. Imagine trying to swim upstream all day. That's what it's like when your environment is working against you. Every step takes extra energy. Every move is harder than it has to be. But when you align your environment with your goals, it's like swimming with the current. Everything flows. You don't need to force momentum. It builds naturally. You don't have to fight your space. It supports you. Start with your physical space. Look around you. Is your home or workspace cluttered or clean, organized or chaotic? Does it inspire you or drain you? A cluttered space leads to a cluttered mind. When your environment is messy, your thinking becomes reactive. You feel overwhelmed, distracted, stuck. But when your space is clean and intentional, your mind follows suit. You think clearer, you move faster, you feel more in control. Then there's your digital environment. This one often gets ignored, but it's just as powerful. Your phone, your apps, your social feeds, they all play a role in shaping your attention, your mindset, and your time. Are you constantly bombarded by notifications? Are you following people who inspire you or people who distract you? Are your apps tools for growth or traps for procrastination? If your digital space is full of noise, it's going to be nearly impossible to stay focused. Silence the noise. Unfollow anything that doesn't feed your purpose. Use technology as a tool, not a toy. Your schedule is part of your environment too. How you structure your time determines what gets done. If your days are chaotic, unplanned, and reactive, you'll always feel behind. But if your days are structured with intention, with clear blocks of time for focus, rest, movement, and learning, your productivity skyrockets. You don't waste energy deciding what to do. You already have a system that guides you. Even your habits create environmental triggers. If every time you sit on the couch you automatically turn on the TV, that's a cue your brain is linked to relaxation. But what if you changed that environment? What if you made it harder to access distractions and easier to engage in your goals? What if your guitar was sitting out, ready to be played, or your journal was on your desk, open and waiting? Tiny shifts in setup can lead to massive shifts in behavior. Then there's your emotional environment, the vibe of the space you exist in. Is there peace, positivity, energy, or is there negativity, stress, and tension? If the people around you are always arguing, complaining, or gossiping, it will wear you down no matter how focused you are. But if your environment feels safe, energized, and goal-driven, it will uplift you even on hard days. The energy around you becomes the energy within you, and that matters more than most people realize. This is why successful people are constantly refining their environments. They know that growth doesn't just happen in the mind, it happens in the space. It's easier to eat healthy when your kitchen is set up for it. It's easier to focus when your desk is clean and your phone is off. It's easier to stay fit when your gym bag is packed and visible. It's easier to stay positive when your home feels like a sanctuary, not a storm. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are part of your environment. If your environment is designed with intention, excellence becomes the default, not the exception. You stop relying on motivation and start leaning into momentum. You stop forcing productivity and start flowing with it. The good news is you have complete control over this. You can start adjusting your environment today. You don't need a big budget or a fancy setup. You just need awareness. You need to ask yourself, is my environment helping me or hurting me? And then make changes. One drawer, one screen, one room, one habit at a time. Because once your environment is aligned with your goals, everything changes. You'll find yourself doing the right things more often, with less effort. You'll feel less resistance, more clarity, and greater energy. You'll build habits faster and keep them longer. And that's how you 10x your results, not through force, but through design. Create an environment that reflects the future you want, then watch how quickly you grow into it.